Scotland gave the world golf, television, penicillin, and one of history's most famous scientific breakthroughs. Yet its strangest stories are hidden in ancient villages, remote islands, and dark highland valleys. Here are 15 facts you need to hear. Edinburgh. Built on volcanoes. Edinburgh's dramatic skyline was shaped by volcanic activity hundreds of millions of years ago. Edinburgh Castle stands on Castle Rock, the hardened remains of a volcanic plug that resisted erosion while the softer surrounding rock was gradually worn away by ice and weather. This natural fortress gave defenders a commanding view over the landscape and helped make the site strategically important for centuries. Nearby, Arthur's Seat rises above Holyrood Park and forms part of an ancient volcanic system created during the Carboniferous period. Although the volcanoes are completely extinct, their remains still define the appearance of the Scottish capital. The steep cliffs, ridges, and elevated viewpoints give Edinburgh a rugged character rarely found in a major European city. Visitors are not simply walking through historic streets, they are exploring a city built directly on the remains of an ancient volcanic landscape. More water than England and Wales. Loch Ness is famous for the legend of a mysterious creature, but the lake itself is just as remarkable. It stretches for about 37 kilometres through the Scottish Highlands and reaches depths of more than 200 metres. Because it is so long, deep and narrow, Loch Ness contains more fresh water than all the lakes in England and Wales combined. Its dark colour comes from peat carried into the water by surrounding rivers and streams, which makes visibility extremely poor below the surface. This has helped keep stories of the Loch Ness monster alive for generations. Reports of strange shapes and unexplained movements became especially popular during the 20th century, attracting journalists, scientists, and tourists. Although no convincing proof of a giant creature has ever been found, the mystery remains one of Scotland's most famous legends. Older than the pyramids. On the windswept Orkney Islands lies Skara Brae, one of the best-preserved prehistoric villages in Europe. The settlement was built more than 5,000 years ago, making it older than both Stonehenge and the Great Pyramids of Egypt. Hidden beneath sand for centuries, it was exposed after a violent storm in the 19th century. Archaeologists discovered stone houses connected by covered passageways, with built-in beds, cupboards, fireplaces, and storage spaces still visible. Because wood was scarce on Orkney, the inhabitants created much of their furniture from stone, giving researchers an unusually detailed picture of everyday Neolithic life. The village was probably home to farmers, hunters, and fishermen who lived in a close community beside the sea. Skara Brae proves that prehistoric people were far more organised, skilled, and comfortable than many modern visitors expect. The world's shortest scheduled flight. In Scotland's Orkney Islands, the flight between Westray and Papa Westray is widely known as the shortest scheduled passenger flight in the world. Under favourable weather conditions, the journey can last little more than 1 minute, although strong winds may make it slightly longer. The route covers only a few kilometres and is operated by a small aircraft carrying a limited number of passengers. For local residents, it is not a novelty, but a practical transport link connecting remote island communities where travelling by boat can be slower and less reliable. The flight is also used by teachers, medical workers, business travellers, and visitors exploring Orkney. Despite its tiny distance, passengers still receive a genuine boarding experience, complete with safety instructions and impressive views across the sea. The route has become an unusual symbol of island life in northern Scotland. The island, everyone abandoned. Far beyond Scotland's western coast lies St Kilda, a remote archipelago once home to a small and remarkably resilient community. For generations, its residents survived through fishing, farming, bird hunting, and the careful sharing of limited resources. Life was harsh, however, and the islands became increasingly isolated as disease, poor harvests, and dependence on outside supplies took their toll. In 1930, the remaining 36 residents asked to be evacuated to the Scottish mainland. Their departure ended centuries of permanent settlement and left behind stone cottages, storage huts, and the ruins of a unique way of life. Today, St Kilda is protected for both its cultural history and extraordinary wildlife. Huge seabird colonies nest on its cliffs, while visitors can still walk through the abandoned village and imagine the difficult choices faced by the people who once called these islands home. Britain's highest mountain was once a volcano. Ben Nevis is the highest mountain in the United Kingdom, rising more than 1,300 metres above sea level near Fort William. Its rugged form was shaped by ancient volcanic activity hundreds of millions of years ago. The mountain developed when a vast volcano collapsed inward, leaving behind dramatic cliffs and broken rock. Later, glaciers carved deep valleys and sharpened the surrounding landscape into the form seen today. Although Ben Nevis has been extinct for an unimaginable length of time, evidence of its fiery past remains visible in its geology. The summit is often covered by cloud, snow, and strong winds, even when conditions are mild below. Thousands of hikers attempt the climb each year, but the rapidly changing weather can make the route dangerous. Ben Nevis is not only a national landmark, but also the remains of one of Scotland's most powerful ancient landscapes. The birthplace of modern golf. Scotland is widely recognised as the birthplace of modern golf, a game that developed on the country's coastal links during the late Middle Ages. Early players used wooden clubs to strike leather-covered balls across open ground shaped by sand dunes, strong winds, and natural hazards. The sport became so popular that King James II temporarily banned it in the 15th century because soldiers were neglecting archery practice. Despite this, golf continued to spread, and formal rules gradually emerged. St Andrews became its spiritual centre, with the Old Course gaining worldwide fame as the home of golf. Its unusual layout, deep bunkers, shared fairways, and famous stone bridge helped define the character of the modern game. Today, Scotland remains a pilgrimage destination for golfers, combining historic courses, dramatic scenery, and a sporting tradition that has influenced the entire world. 5 regions of Scotch whisky. Scotland officially recognises 5 Scotch whisky regions: the Highlands, Lowlands, Speyside, Islay, and Campbelltown. Each area developed its own traditions, ingredients, and production styles, creating noticeable differences in flavour. Highland whiskies are extremely varied, ranging from light and floral to rich and smoky. Speyside contains the largest concentration of distilleries and is known for smooth, fruity, and often sweeter expressions. Islay is famous for powerful whiskies with peat smoke, sea salt, and medicinal notes that can surprise first-time drinkers. Lowland whiskies are generally lighter and more delicate, while Campbelltown produces distinctive spirits that may taste salty, oily, or slightly smoky. By law, Scotch whisky must be made in Scotland and matured in oak barrels for at least 3 years. For many visitors, touring a distillery is one of the best ways to understand the country's landscapes, history, and craftsmanship. The power of the Scottish clans. For centuries, Scottish clans were far more than extended families. They were political, military, and social communities built around loyalty to a chief, control of territory, and protection of their members. A clan could include blood relatives, allied families, tenants, and followers who adopted the same surname or identity. Chiefs settled disputes, organised defence, collected rents, and led their people in war. Rivalries between clans sometimes lasted for generations, producing feuds, raids, shifting alliances, and dramatic betrayals. Castles, glens, and islands often became closely linked to particular clan names, while tartans later helped create the visual identity people recognise today. Although the traditional clan system weakened after the Jacobite period and government repression, clan heritage remains powerful in Scotland and among Scottish communities around the world. The battle that changed the Highlands. The Battle of Culloden, fought near Inverness in April 1746, ended the final Jacobite attempt to restore the Stuart dynasty to the British throne. The Jacobite army, led by Charles Edward Stuart, faced government forces commanded by the Duke of Cumberland. The fighting lasted less than an hour, but the consequences were devastating. Many Jacobite soldiers were killed on the battlefield, while others were hunted, imprisoned, or transported after the defeat. The British government then introduced harsh measures designed to weaken Highland culture and prevent future rebellions. Traditional weapons were restricted, clan chiefs lost much of their power, and elements of Highland dress were temporarily banned. Culloden became the last major battle fought on British soil and remains one of the most emotional and controversial sites in Scottish history. The Highlands, emptied by force. During the 18th and 19th centuries, thousands of people were removed from farms and villages across the Scottish Highlands in a process known as the Highland Clearances. Landowners replaced many small tenant communities with large sheep farms, which produced greater profits and needed far fewer workers. Some families were moved to poor coastal land, while others were forced to leave Scotland and begin new lives in Canada, the United States, Australia, or New Zealand. Homes were sometimes destroyed to prevent residents from returning, and entire glens lost communities that had existed for generations. The clearances were not one single event, but a long period of eviction, economic change, and migration. Their legacy remains deeply emotional because they transformed Highland society, weakened Gaelic culture, and scattered Scottish families across the world. The bridge that changed engineering. The Forth Bridge is one of Scotland's greatest engineering landmarks, stretching across the Firth of Forth near Edinburgh. Opened in the 19th century, it was built to carry railway traffic over a wide and difficult stretch of water. Its enormous red steel structure uses the cantilever principle, with giant arms extending outward from massive towers to support the central spans. At the time, the bridge represented a major leap in design, construction, and industrial confidence. Thousands of workers helped build it, often in dangerous conditions high above the water. The bridge remains in active use today, carrying trains between Edinburgh and northern Scotland. Its strength, scale, and distinctive shape made it a symbol of the country's industrial age, while UNESCO later recognised it as one of the most important achievements in the history of bridge engineering. Scotland helped build the modern world. Scotland has produced an extraordinary number of inventors, scientists, and engineers whose ideas transformed everyday life. Alexander Graham Bell, born in Edinburgh, became closely associated with the development of the telephone. John Logie Baird demonstrated an early working television system, while Alexander Fleming discovered penicillin, one of the most important medical breakthroughs in history. Scottish thinkers also contributed to refrigeration, fingerprint identification, steam power, and modern road construction. In the 20th century, John Shepherd Barron helped develop the cash machine, while James Goodfellow created a secure personal identification number system for banking. These achievements came from a culture that placed strong value on education, practical experimentation, and problem-solving. For a relatively small country, Scotland has had an unusually large influence on the technologies that shape modern life. The sheep that changed science. Dolly the sheep became one of the most famous animals in scientific history when she was born near Edinburgh in 1996. She was the first mammal cloned from an adult body cell, proving that a mature cell could be reprogrammed to create a new organism. Scientists at the Roslin Institute produced Dolly by transferring the nucleus of an adult sheep cell into an egg cell whose own nucleus had been removed. The reconstructed cell was stimulated to divide and placed inside a surrogate mother. Dolly's birth challenged assumptions about biology and opened new possibilities in genetics, medicine, and animal breeding. It also triggered ethical debate about cloning and its use in humans. Dolly lived for more than 6 years and had lambs, showing that she could reproduce normally. Today, her preserved body is displayed at the National Museum of Scotland. The unicorn of Scotland. Scotland's national animal is not a stag, an eagle, or any creature found in its wild landscapes, but the unicorn. This mythical animal appeared in Scottish heraldry during the Middle Ages, when it symbolised purity, courage, strength, and independence. Medieval legends claimed that a unicorn was so powerful and untamable that only an innocent person could approach it. That idea suited Scottish kings, who wanted to present their kingdom as proud and impossible to conquer. When Scotland and England were united under one crown, the royal coat of arms featured a Scottish unicorn beside the English lion. The unicorn is often shown in chains. These do not represent weakness, but the belief that such a fierce creature could only be restrained by great force. Today, The unicorn still appears on historic buildings, royal symbols, souvenirs, and monuments across Scotland. From Edinburgh's volcanic landscape to the wild islands of Orkney and the remote beauty of St Kilda, Scotland offers far more than most travellers expect. Its past can be seen in every castle, battlefield, village, and mountain road. Would you rather explore the Highlands, visit Edinburgh, search for the Loch Ness monster, or tour a traditional whisky distillery? Write your choice below and subscribe to Andy Explores the World for more journeys across the planet.